safe space. We ain't never give a reason you should hide. Compile all your questions, we taking the quest. Join Tarcia on this journey to discover the rest. Go.
Welcome to the Adoption Journey Podcast. I am your host, Tarcia Smith, and welcome back to another week, another journey. Before I dive in, guys, you already know about the Black Adoptees Meetup. Please go follow the IG page and then go ahead and register. Meet us in October 3rd through the 5th in Chicago. And then you can even come and join us on February 28th. We're having a virtual game night. Just sign up. Go to the link in the bio and sign up. Okay, I'm done with all that. Now I'm so excited for this conversation because we were just talking. I was like, wait, I got to turn on the cameras. I have Callie, and I'm going to let her introduce her organization, but she is a birth mom, and I don't get to talk to a lot of birth moms, so I'm honored to have you here. Hey, Callie.
Hello. Yes, my name is Callie, and
I'm sorry, Callie.
that is okay.
Sure
I'm a
that
twin,
right.
So some people call me Sarah too. So it's all good. It's all good. But yes, my name is Callie, like California. And I am the founder of an organization, nonprofit called Talk About Adoption. I founded the organization in 2015, and that was a little bit ago, after, I would say 5 years after I had placed my son for adoption. So I'm a birth mom now going on 22 years. So my birth son is 22. He is an adult now, which is crazy to think. So yeah, that's a little bit in a nutshell about my organization. But I founded the organization when I started to minister outside abortion centers. And a lot of these went, all of them, I would say all of them, were unaware about the option of not just adoption, but the option of open adoption. And so over the years since I started my organization, we have helped women towards informed choices, I would say.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you right there. I want to take you back on your own personal journey.
Okay.
So if you don't mind sharing, how old were you when you got pregnant with your son?
I was 15. I was 15 years old. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I was 15.
Very scary.
Yes, very, very scary. And I will say every woman who faces an unexpected pregnancy, their story in and of itself is very different. And their situation is going to be very different. I would say, go ahead.
No. Oh, I was going to say, tell me about your parents in that moment. What was that like, figuring that out, or even going, hey, I'm pregnant?
Where do we start?
I know.
I could go everywhere, like here and here and here. So I was actually going to mention that, because I think when it comes to especially teenagers, when they face unexpected pregnancies, it's really going to depend on the support system that they have, and really their family, like their aunts, their cousins, the father, their mother, that sort of thing. For me, in my situation, is at the time I was not speaking with my mother. I hadn't in a long, long time, and that's a whole nother story.
Okay.
But I was living with just my father and my twin sister at the time. And so I had to tell my father, about my pregnancy. So that was definitely interesting in and of itself. And my father was raising us at the time, and so he I'm a daddy's girl. I love my dad. He's great. But he was doing what he could do as far as keeping us the finances coming in, and he was a very hard worker. He was gone working all the time. Right. And so when I brought it up to him that I was pregnant, he was not happy at all.
Sure.
Yes. So long story short, we sat down and we were like, okay, what are we going to do here? How are we going to make this work? Because my dad can't raise my kid. We don't have any other extended family members. I have my twin sister, but at the time
she's your age.
my age, right? And my older sister, she was a single mom already, raising 2 kids and struggling. And I was like, I don't really, yeah, I mean, and because of my faith, I don't believe in abortion. Um,
Okay. Now
and
let me
so,
ask you this. The the your baby's father,
mhm.
what kind look at that face.
Oh,
She's like, girl.
oh
Now,
man.
was he a part of any of this conversation, or did
So
he be like, yeah,
girl, it's so complicated when we're discussing these situations. So at the time, I actually ended up dating him, which probably wasn't a good decision because how I became pregnant was not good.
okay,
I was more so in a situation where I was very vulnerable, and that's kind of how I became pregnant. That in a
got you.
nutshell.
Okay,
So the relationship between the first birth father and me, it wasn't good at
okay,
all. But he was in the picture.
okay,
Um, he was also doing drugs and just not making good life decisions, didn't have a home either, was
okay,
home hopping and and
all
and
right,
not didn't have a job. So it was kind of that
okay,
situation. For me, I think I was at the time I was working at Burger King. So
got it.
and sharing a car with my twin sister.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like I was telling you earlier, I didn't have a lot of family support.
Okay.
And I was young. So
So how does a 15-year-old, and maybe because of your faith, is this how you knew about adoption?
so that's interesting. So even though I didn't agree with the choice of abortion, I
Mm-hmm.
actually was wanting to have one. Now, which is
I
crazy to
get it.
think,
No, I
because
get it.
when you are in that situation,
Mm-hmm.
you are very, very scared. I
Mm-hmm.
was very, very, very
It's kind of
vulnerable.
like a lot of people say what they would never do until they're faced with having to do it. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And we're human. We're human
Sure.
beings. We're all
Sure.
sinful. We all make mistakes,
Sure.
and a lot of the things even that we do today, I wouldn't even say abortion, other things that we don't believe in, we do, because
Mm-hmm.
we're human.
Sure.
But speaking on the topic of abortion, even though I didn't agree with it, I wanted to go through with it.
Mm-hmm.
And thank goodness I had my dad saying, "Nope, we're not going to." And I had not been speaking to my mom at the time, but I actually ended up getting a hold of her, and she was like, "I'm going to go take you to get an abortion." And
Mm.
so I said, "Okay, let's do it." And one day she drove me up to the abortion center, in Roanoke, actually, and Roanoke, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
we went inside. I had an appointment, and when I was setting in that area, well, actually, I will say before even coming in, there were people standing outside the abortion center, saying, "We will help you. Let us give you resources." I thought at the time that was very interesting. I was like, why are people standing outside an abortion center? I'm just going in
Yeah.
for an appointment. Like, I didn't really think that much into it. I
Mm-hmm.
just thought it
Because
was
you're
weird.
15. Why would
Yeah,
you?
exactly. I mean, well, when you're 15, especially with me and the way I thought, like, I was just like, let's get in, get it done, and move on,
And be done.
like
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
that sort of thing. And so, my mom and I, we walked in and we saw, I guess they would call protesters, but these protesters were very, very kind. They
Okay.
had a kind aurora around them. It wasn't like you're murdering your baby and
Yeah.
what you see in the movies and
Sure.
stuff like that. They were very, very kind, but I still thought it was really weird there were people out there. I'm like, why are there people out there outside of a medical clinic? So
Mm-hmm.
I went in and I sat down and I saw surprisingly a brochure of a baby development, a fetal development.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I would say I was probably maybe, I could be wrong. I can never remember this part. Maybe 14 weeks pregnant,
Oh, you were
14
far
weeks.
along.
Yeah. So I wasn't like 9. I was like a little bit further along. And I was like, whoa, like that that's a baby. Like for me, when I was looking at it, I was like that. Like I need to think
Mm-hmm.
this. Like I thought this was just like a medical procedure. Like I wasn't thinking
Yeah.
much about it, and I was listening to my mom, because
Sure,
I
because you're
felt like this.
15.
Right. And then I hadn't
Yeah, yeah,
spoken to her
yeah.
in a long, long time. And so I thought this was something that we can connect with. I don't know. So
That's a whole nother conversation.
I know, I know. I told you my story's messy, and it's got a lot of things that in it. But long story short, I ended up walking out of that abortion center and walking into the people outside that and they actually offered me parenting resources. They referred me to a PRC,
Okay, I have
and
to ask
they
this question
yeah.
because I feel like somebody is probably wondering,
Hmm.
how did your mom respond in that moment?
Oh,
She
she
took
was
you
not
there.
happy.
Okay,
She was not happy at
okay,
all. And I
okay.
and for me that was such a God moment, because
Mm,
I wasn't a Christian. I wasn't a Christian at the time.
okay.
So like I was, but I wasn't. Like, it's hard to explain,
It's not. You know why? Because you're
yeah.
15.
Right. I'm
Yeah,
young.
so
Right.
you're young. The
Mhm.
seed has been planted, I could tell,
Mhm.
but you're not there yet for real. I
No,
understand.
no.
I understand.
Yeah, so she was not happy. She was like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "I'm going out there and talking to them." Yes.
She was like,
So,
"Girl, get back in
yeah,
here."
right. Get back in here. I paid for this appointment.
Right.
We're gonna do it. So, and I think a lot of it too. The people in there were really rude. I like there was other reasons why I was like, well, let me talk to these people. They're nicer. But
Wow.
yeah, so
Huh.
and that's what I did, and they referred me to a PRC, and they actually referred me to an amazing maternity home um, that I ended up staying at, because I actually wanted to hide my pregnancy, because and it wasn't just a shame thing for me. Um, it was more like because of how I got pregnant and who I got pregnant by. Because
Mm.
at the time he was a very big drug dealer, very big drug dealer, and I just didn't want people to know. So I was able to stay at this maternity home for free. And what I loved about the maternity home is that they not only told me about the option of open adoption. In the process of that, they also still encouraged me to go to parenting classes and
Okay,
to
so hold on. I'm gonna back you up
yeah.
just a smidge. The maternity home,
Mhm.
because I know a lot of people don't think, because when you think, at least for me, when I think maternity homes, you think back in the 60s and 70s, and these
Mhm.
girls would go and it was horrendous and they weren't telling them anything,
Oh
and
yeah.
they would have these babies like
Mhm.
totally knowing nothing of what their body is experiencing, and then they
Mhm.
say, "Give me the baby," and they send them home.
Yeah.
Tell me what.
It- yeah. It was not like that. No, 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 no. And I'm sure, and this was 22 years ago even. I can't imagine how much they've even gone further. You know.
Right.
Um
So just to
yeah.
give me a because somebody doesn't know that exists.
Yeah.
Somebody doesn't know that that's still a thing, and it
Mhm.
doesn't look like it did in the baby scoop era.
It there are maternity homes. Actually, there are lots of them, and they're incredible. There's actually another one located in it's either North Carolina, South Carolina, called Via. And
Hmm.
these women, it's actually incredible. You're going to be like, are you kidding me? These women stay there throughout their entire pregnancy and beyond for free, free food, and they help them with childcare after, so they can go to college their first year while they parent. It's incredible. You should look it up. Miravia is the name of
I will
that
make
maternity
sure
home.
that I drop that link in the description when we
Yeah,
release this episode for sure.
yeah.
Um, so you're still high school age. When you're at this maternity home, are you still going to school?
So yes, I was actually I ended up being I was in 10th grade at the time when I had gotten pregnant, and I personally wanted to hide my pregnancy. The women that I stayed with that were also pregnant, I believe most of them were parenting, except me. I was the only one there that was choosing adoption.
Okay.
And so that was another reason why I personally wanted to hide my pregnancy and stay there. And so when they were going to outings, so they would take them to go out to eat at Chick-fil-A or, Burger King, or go shopping, go to the mall, I was staying back. I would stay back and make myself sandwiches and, just hang out there because I really wanted to not, like, I didn't want anybody around knowing that I was pregnant. Plus I was local.
Okay.
So if I was out, people would see me.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a personal decision for me, and I'm glad they respected that. Um, I did hide my pregnancy, but while I was in the maternity home, they helped me homeschool myself through 11th grade. And so I ended up homeschooling myself through 11th grade. They got me a tutor to help me
Mm-hmm.
um, with, math and just things that I really wasn't good at.
Okay.
And then after I think I had completed 10th grade. I can't remember. Um, I, I think I either had completed 10th grade or what I had decided to do was go ahead and start studying for my GED. And so I do
Okay.
remember studying for my GED, and I ended up getting my GED so I could go on to college early.
Okay.
So what I ended up doing is get my GED in the maternity home, and then after I had my birth son, that's when I went to college the following year.
Okay.
Mhm.
So now you've gone through this, you've had him. Can you talk about the day that you had him and what that
Mhm.
was like having to?
Aw.
I know.
I don't want to cry, girl.
You can cry,
Yeah.
girl. You can
Well, so
cry.
it's a even to this day, it's crazy to think, even after 22 years, just thinking about that day, it gets me really, really emotional because it's a very difficult time for women. I mean, it's already a difficult time after you have a baby. Your hormones,
Sure.
your
All
emotions.
over the
I
place.
mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Or
Mm-hmm.
do you have kids?
I do.
Okay, so like
Uh-huh.
it's your hormones are everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And especially I think even in having a baby in the hospital with people you don't know and nurses, you don't coming in and out and even at that time a lot of nurses didn't really know about the choice of adoption. And so looking back, I will say the maternity home and the caseworker there, they were wonderful at educating the nurses on how to
Mm.
approach me and how to handle the situation, because that's obviously for
Wow. I
nurses.
never
I'm a
thought about
nurse,
it,
you
about
know.
that part of it. Yeah, they need to
Yeah,
be gentle on how they handle
so
you.
they
Sure.
were really good at handling the situation, because they probably wondered, okay, like why does she not want to hold the baby, and like why does
Mm.
she, and of course I only speak for me. I don't speak for any other birth mom. I know birth moms that have breastfed their baby. I know birth moms that all they want to do is hold the baby in the room.
I was held. It's in my paperwork.
Oh,
I'm
were
an
you?
adoptee.
Oh,
I was
right,
held.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's wonderful. I would love
Yeah.
to ask you about your story, but I know this is about
This is
me,
about you,
so
girl.
that's amazing. For me, from what I remember, and again, I was young, emotions and hormones, and um it was tough because I was very adamant. I had that whole pregnancy to think about my decision, and I really did. I went to parenting classes. I investigate, okay, what if I could parent, what if I could parent, and there was just no way, for me to. And so I was
Hmm.
very confident in my decision. I weighed the risks and the goals and everything. I was even looking to like what are we going to do when he's 18, that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
but going back to the hospital after he was born, it was very tough because this would be my mom's first grandchild.
Mm.
So she was there, and that didn't make it any better.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, she was there, and my mom, I love her to death. She's not alive today, but I love her to death. She was going through her own addictions, and
Okay.
so for her being there and her saying, "Oh well." let's go ahead and parent, together, and I will help you. That definitely didn't help the situation either, because I knew that that wasn't a possibility, even though I wanted it so bad to be a possibility. And there is such a big difference.
You're making a lot of tough decisions at
Yeah,
15,
yeah.
16.
It is so, I know, it's so tough. And thank God I had my caseworkers, helping me through this time, because even this maternity home and this adoption agency, would have supported me if I chose to parent. They would have supported me, but I just couldn't. And so,
because like you said earlier, the other young ladies were choosing to parent.
Everybody, most of the women going through there, I was the only one that at the time, there were women that have gone through this maternity home that ended up choosing to place, but at the time I was choosing open adoption.
So I'm glad you said that. Was a perfect segue. Open adoption. You hear a lot about it looking all different types of ways. And so, first of all, 22 years ago, what did that term mean to you? And
yeah, it was so different.
And what did that look like 22 years ago?
I would say it has come around. Now, again, this is my perspective, because I know a lot of people may disagree. Okay, but
this is your story, girl.
I got your, okay. So
this is your story.
Yes, okay. I'm just
I hear you.
It has come around so much. Like so much. It's insane. Like, it was just coming around when I placed. And yeah, and again, I don't think I even told you this. I never even heard about the option of adoption until when I was outside the abortion center, when they had mentioned it.
Okay, yeah, that was the answer to that question.
Okay.
So they are your, okay.
Yeah.
Got you.
So that was the first time I even heard about the option of adoption, was outside that abortion center, by those people that were giving me resources. But yeah, so it's definitely come a long way. I think it's interesting. I speak to birth moms that have spent the night with their birth child and the adoptive parents, and have like lived there. Cool, if that works out, everybody.
What? Say that again. They do what now? Say that.
So
did I hear you right?
Yeah,
say it again.
It's very interesting how it's come about, how open adoption has. There are birth moms that I've spoken to so many birth moms because our organization started in 2015. We have so many reaching out to us and telling us their stories, and we share stories on our social media pages. But there are birth moms that actually stayed after giving birth, they go home with their birth child and the adoptive parents and live with them. So yeah, now for me, I don't, and again, I think it's just every birth mom's different.
Sure.
In the beginning with our adoption, I believe the first year, even though it was open adoption, the first year was semi-open, which means you just exchange like photos, and you exchange photos, and maybe you like meet once a year, depending on what the adoptive parents want to do. So, and that's what we did. We met the first year, I believe. I want to say the first year or the second year. Gosh, girl, it was so long ago. I will say this, which is really funny. My dad was such a cool dude, because I remember meeting it, and it was still semi-open, which means you can't exchange addresses. You can't exchange home addresses. You can't like exchange phone numbers or anything like that. And I may get in trouble for this. Hopefully, my caseworker does not listen to this podcast, because my dad and the adoptive father of my birth son, they exchanged phone numbers, emails, addresses, the second meeting that we met in person. And so I thought that was kind of funny. So my dad always like knew where they lived and that sort of thing.
Did you know that? Or you
No,
knew this
I didn't.
much later on?
I didn't. I wanted
like,
to
I'm
respect
keeping
the
up with my
parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to respect them, and their wishes and stuff. And so that's what I did.
Okay. Now, talk about that meeting, especially that first one.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be. I'm trying to visualize that, but I don't think there's a way
Yeah.
unless you've walked those shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Can you
Well,
kind
I
of
will say
describe what
this.
that's like? Yeah.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. It was really tough. What I will say is having goals and moving forward and getting yourself together is such a big deal when you place a child for adoption. You have to have goals. You have to have forward movement. You have to have a drive to get yourself better, because I had to get myself better. And that's why I
Mm.
placed. And so that's what I was doing. I was going to college. I'm like, okay, I'm going to college now. I'm gonna, be better. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
work on myself. And that's what I did. I was going to college at the time. I'm trying to think, I don't even know if I was dating. I don't know. I don't think I was dating the first year when I was going to college. I think I was just really focusing on getting a degree, meeting different friends. I needed to be able to have a good, um,
A
I
circle.
like a circle. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
A good circle of friends, because the friends before,
Mm.
yeah. So I was really working on myself, and that really helped me, um,
Yeah.
to move
And to
forward.
have the wherewithal, even in your late teens, early 20s, to have the wherewithal to know, you know what, I need another circle. Because
Yeah,
that's at that age where it's like the blind leading the blind. We're all just out here just doing
I
craziness.
know. I
And
know.
so
And it's
the
so
fact,
important that you have a good circle of friends, especially if you don't
yeah.
have a family, because,
Mm.
they're going to be the ones that help you move forward. They're going to be the ones that say, you got this.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't, what would be, for me, what would be the point of placing my son and then going back to the same habits, going back to the same friends?
Yeah.
And so, and,
But that was
mhm.
still mature of you to have even had those thoughts.
Well, let
Because
me
some
tell you
people,
this,
go
placing a
ahead.
child will make you grow up really fast. It really will. It will make you grow up, and I feel for me, it gave me that motivation to do better.
Mm. So what has open adoption, has it changed over the years? Did you get to a point where there was no contact at all? Because
Um,
I know he's grown now, but give me a
it's
little.
funny you say that. Excuse me. It's funny you say that, because, um, it did get to the point where it got really tough, because when I was, um, when I was, actually getting like, photos and like emails and stuff, that got really tough. And so I had to actually, uh, uh, I wouldn't say, I would say close it. I
Mm,
had to actually, I was the one that actually wanted it closed. And so we
that
ended
is
up,
so interesting.
hmm
And let me say this, because you hear a lot of rhetoric about the adoptive parents and they don't
hmm
act right and they're the ones. Does anybody ever consider what the birth mother might feel like? Because
right.
this is rough. And
Yeah.
I'm watching you grow up from a distance, and I'm not able to raise you, and I can't just come and get you.
hmm
So I
Yeah.
think that's important for people to hear
It
that
is,
you had to
because,
do that.
it's not just the adoptive parents that can close the adoption, it's the birth mom too.
Hmm.
And people don't think that, because it's a two-way thing. It's a two-way
Hmm.
agreement. So
Around how old was your son at that time?
I would say, he was about, gosh, two? I would
Oh, he's
say
still
two.
little. Okay.
Yeah, he was still
So not
little.
old enough to really know who you might have been.
No, not old enough, but I do remember, because it was like I was telling you. I think I can't remember if it was semi-open for the first year or the first 2 years. I don't know. It was such a long time ago, but I do remember going to the caseworker, because in order to get the photos and, just things that they wanted to give me, I
Hmm.
had to actually go to my caseworker at the adoption
Hmm.
agency and get that stuff, like the photos and stuff that they would save for me. And I remember sitting in the office and looking at a photo of him, and he was so happy. He was just really, really happy. And it just kind of like, I was happy for him, but I was sad for myself because I couldn't parent him. And so I'm going to get emotional.
It's okay, girl.
And so, yeah, I was happy for him, but sad for me. And so it was more of a selfish thing for me, because the adoptive parents really, really, they were rooting me on, and they were praying for me, and they were like, "You got this, Callie. We're so proud of you. And we're so blessed that you gave us this gift, and we honor you and we respect you." And, for me, it was tough going into that office and that caseworker showing me those photos at that time.
Yeah.
I don't know what triggered it, because that obviously wasn't the first photo or, the first time I've seen him, growing. But for some reason that just triggered me at that time. And I actually gave the photos back to the caseworker, and I was like, "Listen, at this time right now, I don't have time for this." And so again, I feel like it was a little bit of selfish going on for me.
Yeah.
It was an internal thing. And I was like, I can't do this right now. And I gave her the photos back. I said, I don't want to have, at this time, I don't want to receive any more photos or gifts or anything from them. I need to learn to move forward without the reminder. Like, this is what you did. This is, it was almost like a reminder for me. Like, this is your, I needed that space. So.
Ooh, that's deep, girl.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. So how long did that go on for?
I would say a year. I would say a year. And I can't imagine what my birth son's adoptive parents, how they felt. I'm sure they were very, very devastated, because they actually went into it and they didn't even want to semi-open at first. They wanted it to be completely open. Completely. So they were just respecting what the agency kind of set aside, for open adoptions at the time,
Okay.
And now, like I was telling you, they're completely open. Like, you're placing your child right into the arms of these adoptive parents now, and some of these birth moms are going home with them. So, it was just, completely different, It's like,
Wow.
Yeah.
So, what now? Again, he is grown. Has there been a reunion between the two of you?
Oh, we've had it open after that. So I had closed it that 1 year, but it reopened. It slowly reopened. Oh yeah, it slowly reopened.
Okay, let me ask you this. I'm so excited I can ask a birth mom that has walked in these shoes. Do you think that that's confusing for the child to have your birth mom come kind of in and out, if you will, and then go home with the adoptive parent?
Yeah. Oh, I see what you mean. Like today, like the way they're doing it today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you didn't. Were you kind of in and out of his? Like
the first 2 years it was semi-open, but I saw him like once a year for meetings, and then I would get pictures of him, that sort of thing. And then after,
so you weren't really having physical contact. You're getting pictures.
Yeah, I wasn't. Maybe like once or twice a year I was. Like, I would hold him, and he
but
was
you've talked to a lot of birth moms, and in conversation, do you think that's confusing? Because I come from an era, I'm a 70s baby, so I come from the closed adoption era.
Are you really born in the 70s? Girl, you look young.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm about to be 50 in March, girlfriend.
Wow, so you got some wisdom. And that explains why you're very mature and open, Yeah, you definitely.
I appreciate that compliment.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, but, I'm sorry, what was your question?
I've had this conversation with my adoptive mother, for context, and she was like, I think that would be so confusing for the birth mom to be coming in and out. She was like, I don't think that would have been healthy. I don't know. And she's speaking from she's of a different generation. We
Yeah,
did things a lot different. So just from conversations with birth moms today, what do
yeah.
you think?
This is the thing. I mean, if you think about it, if we think about it this way, your adoptive parents are your parents. They're your parents.
Absolutely.
They
They are.
raised you.
Hmm.
They're your mom. They're your dad.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like saying, do you think it's confusing if, your aunt stayed over and she was the one? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think with birth moms, they're just the additional family member. If you think of it like that,
Okay.
it's almost like me asking, like, it's almost like, because I have a daughter, I have kids now,
Okay.
that I parented, and it's almost asking them that question. Like if
Mm.
there was an additional family member that stayed, because if you think of it, like, your adoptive parents, they're the ones that raised you. They're the what like
Sure.
they're the ones that are investing 24/7 in your life. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
being a parent is not just like, let me go ahead and give birth and that's it. That's all a parent is. Like, I
Yeah.
know, and I also have a special needs kid, so there's a lot of extra when it
Mm.
comes to parenting. That obviously those who haven't parented before, it's definitely
Okay.
an investment, a good investment. It's a
Yeah.
blessing.
It's a blessing.
So, but if you think of it to where the adoptive parents, that's their parent, you know, that's what they know. That's their mom, that's their dad. Because if you look at it, there is a bond inside the womb, but I feel, okay, this is my perspective, and from what I've read and the research I've done, and spoken to people, because I've gone into homes and that sort of thing, and I've dealt with a lot of family stuff, when it comes to my work on the side as well. But their bonds occur after there's it's not just, there's no magical, like, just because you birth a child, like, all of a sudden that, oh, there's the bond, they're gonna love me forever, and they're gonna just do everything I say, and they're gonna love is given over time, and bonds are built over time. Even though there is
Mm.
a bond when you give birth because they were in your stomach, I feel like that bond is more so for the mother, the mother to be a mother to their child, their mother to love their child, but you can really build bonds after the child is born too. And most bonds are built after the child is born. And they actually say the first 5 years of life are the most vital when it
Yeah.
comes to building that bond with your child. So
So
anyway, did
what?
that answer your question? I don't.
Mhm.
I'm just going
No, no,
everywhere.
you
Sorry, I'm in
did.
between
No,
my work, so I'm like
no, you
fast,
absolutely did.
fast pace.
No, no, you absolutely did. So, um, so you would say for the birth mom, I love that you gave your perspective on that, because
Mhm.
there's so many different
I know,
conversations
I
around
know,
that,
I
and
know.
and um, so you would say that there's a bond,
Mhm.
but the bond is formed more so after.
I think so. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's why when your child is immediately born, you put them on your chest,
Yeah.
so they can hear a heartbeat, because
Mhm.
that's what they're used to.
Mhm.
And you breastfeed the child
Mhm.
because how you form the bond, you
Mhm.
know? And I don't know if you've read about this. Adoptive parents, that's how they start to bond with their child. They put the baby on their chest. They
I've
do
seen it.
certain
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
things. Yeah,
They,
yeah, yeah. I that's when that bond is, I feel, is going to start to really, really grow. I mean, if you
hmm.
even look at the interaction with I've even seen the interaction with, you look at these, for example, these white moms, and they have the adoptive transracial adoption, and
Hmm.
these children, like, they're really connected to their adoptive parents. I mean, they have the same So the adoptive parents leave and they get like, where the adoptive parents, they get anxiety, like just like any other child with their biological parent. Does that make sense? Like,
it makes total sense.
Bonds, true bonds are formed over time, you know. You've got love is formed over time, you know, with, you know, I mean, and I can say that too because I had a biological mother, but I mean, she was my biological mom, and don't get me wrong, she had her addictions and she gave birth to me, but you know, like,
I hear
again, it's I think my perspective is when it comes to biology, I think we really need to tread thin because, you know, there are, especially fathers, you know, there are fathers that, they're biological, but are they there? Are they present? You know?
Yeah.
So, you know, that's
That
just
is
my
interesting.
perspective
I'm
with
gonna
that.
let the people hash that out in the comments. They can have their own conversation in the comments of this. I want to ask you, if you don't mind, about your birth son. How, because now he's an adoptee. So how is he?
It's great. We message, we text. If he listens to this podcast, he needs to be getting a girlfriend soon. And you know, I've been pushing him on that. I've been pushing him on that. You know, so he's 22. He actually graduated college a year early.
Congratulations.
JMU, very smart, very very smart. He's got a great career right now, very established. He is, and I think it has a lot to do with personality. A lot to do with personality. He is very chill. Like, if you met him, you would be like, "Are you like smoking something?" Or like, like he is very like, he's not smoking anything. I'm just joking about that.
No,
But
I get it.
he's a very content, very happy person. Very optimistic, very optimistic. So he's
I
great.
love
We
that.
message, we call. He actually came over to my house and stayed a couple days. I want to say a month ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So definitely that relationship. So he has a relationship with you, as of course his parents. So okay. So now I want to loop back to the work that you do on a daily basis. Now that people know who Callie is and why she does what she does, tell the people a little bit more about your 501c3.
So, my 501c3, again, we started in 2015, and really, I started that organization to talk about adoption. Especially at that time when I began in 2015. Again, adoption's grown since then, but very rarely people were even talking about that topic, about that option, as a option for women who were specifically abortion minded. And so I started that organization just to get the word out there for people to see the option of adoption as a choice as well. And so we began sharing stories of mainly birth moms who have placed their child for adoption. And that was, I feel like that created a huge impact. We had people reaching out to us like, "Oh my gosh, I thought I was like the only one. I was ashamed to even talk about my choice of adoption. And I found your social media page. I found your website, and, you know, I want to share my story, you know?" And so, just over time, people came to us and wanted to share their stories and why they chose adoption. So it's pretty incredible. It's grown into we've got what we call birth mom mentors throughout the United States, and they just share their perspectives at pregnancy resource centers. When we get a woman coming to us who is facing an unexpected pregnancy, depending on what state they're in, I'll connect them to a birth mom mentor, so that birth mom can give their perspective on adoption. They don't give them like agency numbers or anything like that. They just share their story
Okay.
with these women. And a
Okay.
lot of them are connected to pregnancy resource centers. A lot of them are volunteering at pregnancy resource centers. And so they actually help them make a parenting plan. And so amazingly enough, you would think that women who came to us facing unexpected pregnancies would choose adoption, but so far they've chosen to parent, which I think is
That's
incredible.
amazing.
Yeah,
That's
I think that's
amazing.
incredible. So I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
so what, but we're not an agency, and I don't think we ever will be one. We're a nonprofit, and we're more on the pro-life side. We're very much pro-life. We want people to see that there is not just the option of parenting, there is the option of adoption. And we want people to see those two options, because from what I've experienced working with women who are facing unexpected pregnancies is when they see that there are two options, they're not so much in a rush to go get an abortion. They're able to step back and be like, okay, let me think about my decision here. Why am I choosing abortion? What am I fearful of? What is it that I don't have that I need that will help me move forward in making an informed choice? And so a lot of the times it's so interesting. A lot of the times they just need somebody saying you can do this, which is insane to me, because again, every story is different. For me,
Yeah.
I feel like I was a little bit more confident when I got pregnant because I knew that I didn't have help. And even though there were people cheering me on saying, you can do this, I knew that I'm like, no, I can't do it,
No, because you're not coming home with
Yeah,
me.
like
And let me tell you, at the house, we
right. Like
cannot do
my
it.
dad was even like, even remember, and I love my dad, but he was surviving. See, he was in survival mode. So
Mm,
he was trying to survive, trying to help us. And then
yeah.
I get pregnant. That's like, he's drowning already, so he's like,
Yeah.
good Lord,
Good Lord.
and so I remember him telling me, that if you parent Callie, I'm sorry, I just can't help you. And I know that sounds really mean, but I'm
No, it
glad he was
doesn't.
honest, because if
Yeah.
I had parented, my God, I wouldn't have that. I wouldn't know what to do, because he was like, you're not living here. And so,
Oof.
yeah, I
At
know, I know,
15. Yeah. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
And so, and he was trying to survive. So, I'm not trying to make him out to be the villain
No.
or anything.
No. No.
But I'm
Because a
glad
lot
he
of
was
us have those
honest.
types of stories
Yeah,
where we
because
were placed for
yeah,
adoption. Yeah.
yeah, because
Hmm.
if he wasn't being honest with me, he was like, "Oh yeah, I'll help." I don't know if my child would have ended up in foster care, and that's a whole nother topic. That's a
Ooh.
whole nother topic.
And
You
this is
know.
why I wanted you to come on the show, because there are so many perspectives. There's so much noise. But
Mhm.
let's talk to the people that's actually walked in these
Mhm.
shoes.
Mhm.
And so to drown out some of the noise, there's a lot of opinions, there's a lot of everything. And I believe everybody has a story, and your story is your story,
Yeah.
period.
Yep.
So, my final question for you, what would you say? And I know this is going to be amazing. What would you say to a woman who's facing an unexpected pregnancy right now? What would you tell her?
Wow. I would tell her, I know you're scared, and I know you're fearful. I know what it's like because I faced it, and I'm sure you feel alone, and you feel like you want to hurry up and just get rid of the problem and move on. But there is another life in you that you have to think about. And there are other choices, and it's not just parenting. There are choices of adoption. And if you have even just one family member, even one friend that's rooting you on, listen to them. Let them help you get real resources. Go to a pregnancy resource center. They will help you. There are amazing pregnancy resource centers out there that will help you find find what you need. And there are amazing maternity homes out there that will help you too. And you can be that parent. You can be that mom and also pursue your goals.
I love that. I want to thank you so much for coming onto the show and telling your story and giving
Thank you
these
for having
resources.
me.
And I'm going to be sure to drop you're welcome. I'm going to make sure to drop them in the description for sure, and especially your organization as well. And don't leave me, Callie. Hold on one second. On that note, bye, family.
Bye. Thank you.
Journey on, journey on. You need a pie with the good? Oh yeah, what's the one? Adoption.